everybody. Welcome to Tech Talk number 13, Wi-Fi propagation and your Docker station. That's a whole lot of work.
Docker station.
There we go. All right, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm Ryan Bowman. That's Brian East. You should know us by now, but if not, hello. Here we are. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for catching up every week with us as we talk about different technical details and features and solutions that can help specifically, not always, but specifically to the cellular industry and some of the customers and partners that we work with each and every day. So today we are going to talk about Wi-Fi propagation, and we are going to talk about the Docker container features found on various routers and some of the solutions there. So we'll just jump right into it. How about it, Brian?
All right. Hey, and just for reference here, these two topics aren't specifically connected. They're two relatively smaller topics, so I thought we would combine them into one Tech Talk episode. All right, so first we'll talk about Wi-Fi. Specifically, how do I choose 2.4 gigahertz versus 5.0? Right, so we'll talk a little bit about 2.4 first. This is the most common Wi-Fi range here, and it's been around for a long time. It propagates very, very far out, and it's good for penetrating walls. But the problem is with how popular it is, a lot of times it can get crowded. You can have a whole lot of different 2.4 gigahertz propagations out by different access points at the same time, and you can do channel selection, but a lot of times by default they'll sometimes cancel each other out to some degree. You have some sort of signal degradation, lower speeds. The other one is 5.0, and this is a little bit newer, though it's been around again for many years. You're going to get faster speeds because of the higher frequency, but you're also going to get lower range. So a use case for this would be you don't need this thing to go that far out. And if you don't need it to go that far out and you want it in a tighter area, then you're going to get faster speeds than if you did 2.4. And fewer people use this 5.0, at least currently. So it's going to be less crowded. So when you're deciding which one should I use, it's going to be situationally based. A lot of times companies will set out both, right? They'll have a 2.4 and a 5 gigahertz, and sometimes they'll push them out on the exact same network, and that's perfectly fine. But if you really want to get tight about it, you can choose between which one you want to use. Between the two, and select, all right, I want to go outside, say we have a patio on the outside that we want to get to, or maybe I just have a small little office area with a handful of cubicles and we want to keep it close in there. And that's how you're going to configure it. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about, you may not be as familiar with, and these are called Docker containers. And they're relatively new to the cellular router world. They've been around for a long time, actually, for upwards of a decade in building online platforms and other online, things that are stored up in, are processed up in AWS and what is the Microsoft Azure. And so what is Docker? Think about it exactly like this graphic shows you. You've got a ship with a bunch of modular containers. Once those containers arrive, they are taken off the ship and then moved to another location. Those containers stay put the way they are. What's inside of them doesn't change, but they can be moved and copied around. So this is when software is developed in a Docker containerized environment, you've got a handful of abilities here. First, the containerization. That technology, it creates isolated environments. They're called containers, and the applications can run consistently across different computing environments. It allows the applications to be bundled with their dependencies. So if you ever see, in your Windows, sometimes it's like, hey, I need this dependency. If they can put them all together, and so it runs with all of the stuff that it needs to have underneath it. So this ensures that they run reliably, consistently on any system that has that Docker installed. And then going back to what I was alluding to a minute ago was the portability. They are highly portable. So you can build an application in one environment and run it in another without worrying about the differences, right? So how it fits into each different environment is something that you tweak outside of the container for each one. So this portability eliminates the whole works on my machine problem, and it simplifies the process of deploying applications across a whole bunch of different environments. Development, testing, production. It's very, very efficient. These are lightweight containers, not physically lightweight, but in a computational.
From an application standpoint, software.
Right. It's very lightweight. It enables efficient resource utilization. This is important for routers. Routers don't always necessarily have very strong processors. The nature of routing does not require a whole lot of processing power. Running Docker containers won't add too much to that. If you were to build a program inside of a router with all of the bells and whistles, sometimes that could use a whole lot of resources, processing power, bandwidth, you name it. But with these Docker containers, it's not near as heavy. And then the last piece of this is scalability. Well, not the last piece, but scalability. One above that is you can build as many of these as you want and expand them out to as many environments as you want. And finally, and this has less to do with routers, but just in general, you could do version control and collaboration. You have different versions in different containers. So you can do differences. If one of them has a problem, then you can always just pull out the old version, put in the new version, done. Or pull out the new version, sometimes unfortunately is the case, and pop in the old version, the old tried and true. And then the collaborative effort or aspect of it is that multiple people can use their efforts together from distances apart in building this thing, and it is open source. So nobody has the property rights to this. So this takes us to the next thing. How do we use it for cellular routers? By the way, that little whale thing, that's the Docker container symbol. That's the Docker symbol. This is really important, especially from a sales functionality. Because more and more routers are using Docker, using containers, you're able to create functionalities for your routers that aren't built into the graphical user interface, the GUI. So you can handle things that you want it to do and make them do special things. What this does is, like, say I'm using a Cradlepoint E300, and it's got an amazing backend, but there are specific things that I want it to do that aren't really choosable or choosing in conjunction, or I want this to happen, then this to happen, then that to happen. You can create a container and pop it in there. Now, what that does is that adds the functionality, but it also makes your customer sticky. Because whereas anybody can sell them an E300, no one else can sell them an E300 that does exactly this, because I created this, we created this container, and it is specific to what they needed it for. So this creates sticky customers. Go ahead, Ryan.
I feel like it's the next evolution in configurations, right? Like that was part of the nice component to cloud portals and router configuration control, that you could create a configuration and deploy that out en masse to all of your routers. I feel like this takes that even a step further. Some of the stuff that you weren't able to do in a configuration just from a application limitation, you can put in the Docker and then be able to deploy that out en masse with all of your routers. Does that make sense? Hopefully I'm tracking right.
No, absolutely. So yeah, it specializes like specific configurations for each individual use case. But then it also, you can work with the dev teams of these router manufacturers, and some of them are more friendly towards that than others. But you can work with the dev teams and say, I want this router to be able to do this because I want to create a container that does X, Y, Z. Or rather, maybe it already does this, but I'd like it to present the output in this way or that so that I can get my container to do this. And they'll work with you a lot of times and help you to create this specialized, functionality that no one can get elsewhere, that no one's actually put together.
Yep. Custom to whatever you need it to be.
Yep. And that is Docker.
Cool. Do you, I hate to put you on the spot here, but do you have like a good real world example of like what someone would put in a Docker for a use case by chance?
Absolutely. So we built one for a certain router manufacturer product that what it would do is it would take GPS data from the different time bases, and then if it ran into an area where, say, there was a whole lot of tree overgrowth, like if you ever driven down side country roads in South Carolina, you'll see there's canopies of trees, and you're blocking the satellite. So what the container would do would be to kind of fill in the gaps automatically.
Okay.
Whereas the router company could do that.
Sure.
But they had no reason to, and so this does that, and so it fills in the gaps for those little spots.
Okay.
There's stuff like, I want it emailed to me whenever this, that, or whatever happens.
Yeah.
Whenever we hit an RSRQ, that you name it.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a real customization of some of the additional features, and then actually adding additional software features to a existing. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
We do have a tech item of the week.
We do. Is it an actual tech item or is it a tech non-tech item?
It's a tech item.
Cool.
Right. And it's not all these fireworks. By the way, have a mostly safe 4th of July. But where did I put this thing? Right here. This, folks, is going to be very necessary if you're out on the road and you're doing sales presentations.
You need an envelope. Oh, wait, no.
It is the yellow envelope. And what we've got here, ta-da, is an HDMI to VGA adapter. Have you ever been in an environment where my laptop only does VGA or my laptop only does HDMI, but the TV we're trying to connect to does the other one? Yep. This little guy, very, very portable, can fit in very, very small places, and it is extremely useful. I can't tell you the number of times that I've used this. I used to work for another company, and I would do trainings, go on site and do trainings. And this was with law enforcement. It may come to as a surprise that sometimes law enforcement budgets aren't all that heavy duty. And so these poor guys are dealing with older computers a lot of times, and this came in handy a lot.
I could believe it.
VGA HDMI adapter.
That's good. And it is small. I was going to say that's very portable. Some of them are like large boxes, and like it's kind of not quite the same. So that's cool. Awesome.
Yeah, and there are other ones that, you've got the DVI and HDMI and all the other things. It's a Swiss Army knife of adapters.
Yeah. I feel like you're pretty safe with VGA and HDMI. If you can't get those two things, you should probably just use your laptop screen. So
yeah.
I mean, that covers it pretty well. I know DVI's out there, but definitely never got the popularity that VGA and HDMI have. So cool. Well, that's pretty awesome. And yes, you mentioned mostly safe, but I'd say have a safe 4th of July, and but fun, right? Keep it real. and all that kind of good stuff as well.
I'm a bit of a pyro. My motto is safety third.
Safety third.
Hopefully, I'll be around for next week's Tech Talk.
Yeah, let's hope. So yeah, practice. So hopefully somebody else in your group is safety first, and then they can all balance out and all that good stuff.
Usually that's my wife and my 9-year-old.
There you go. That's good.
It's
good to have good resources around us that kind of keep us alive. And yeah, so for everyone out there, actually, by the time this airs, it's going to already be, I think, the 5th of July. So yeah, we're recording a bit early. So
there we go.
So hopefully, by the time you listen to this, you've had an amazing 4th of July, and stay safe, have fun. Welcome.
Hopefully, you haven't propagated your fingers from the rest of your hand.
Yeah, that's not the propagation. Yeah, that's definitely not the propagation we want to happen. So, So anyhow, as always, have yourself an amazing day, and we will catch up with you next week.
Indeed. Hey, Metal.